Alrighty, welcome everybody. We're going to go ahead and jump right on in. I took a wedged round ball of clay and placed it in the center of the wheel, and I'm kind of pushing down on the sides and in to where it makes a little melted piece of Hershey chocolate. You can see my pressure is down and in, and then I'm going to take my finger and make sure that I seal that down to the bat. We want to make sure there's no gaps between the wheel and our piece of clay. So I'm going to position my hand. My left hand is pushing in at 7, and my right hand is pushing in at 6, down at 6. So in at 7, down at 6. My hands are becoming a little bit of a mold, so my hands aren't moving in that position. They're moving down, up and down, but otherwise they're not letting the clay move. So I'm going to cone up. I squeeze in the clay up. And then you can see I'm pushing away at 6 and down at the same time. And that little skirt at the bottom, I'm taking my finger and making sure that I can kind of incorporate that clay. A lot of times we lose clay at the bottom because we leave that skirt flaring out. And that's a real big spot for clay to kind of hold on to. So we want to make sure that we incorporate that all. So my arms are attached to my legs. You can see my arms are completely structured on my legs. Here I'm taking a pin tool and just drawing a little circle in the center so I know where the center is, especially if this is you're beginning or getting back into it and you want to know where to put your finger. Draw a little circle line, hold it there, and I'm going to drop my finger down in and then draw it right back to me. So I'm pulling it back towards my belly button. And then I'm going to pull away. All that water in the bottom, we're going to compress that bottom and we're going to get the water out of there. If the water stays, water is going to just break up that bottom, and it's going to be another place where you're going to get S cracks. So you can see I'm taking my right hand or my dominant hand with the sponge and I push in at the base where the wheel and the clay meet, pushing in and getting up underneath that and just lifting straight up. So if you notice, my elbows are locked into my body, and the only thing that's moving up is my hands. My wrists are stiff. They're not going anywhere. It's just a pull straight up motion, and I kind of lift up with it too. So if your elbows are out, those are like your wings. So if your elbows are out, you're going to take flight and you're going to get a little wobbly. So you want to have the most structure that possible. So here I'm going to go ahead and once again push in with my finger. It kind of creates a little coil above. You can see I'm pointing that out. And I'm going to lift that coil up. So my hands are going to stay together. They're not going to change shape. They're not squeezing in. But they're going to get up underneath that little coil and we're going to move it upward. So it's lifting up. That's going to be our wall pull. So I'm moving slower than the wheel is moving fast. So we move faster than one revolution of the wheel, you're making a spiral. And so just like a needle on a record, the needle on the record doesn't move to the next groove until it's made one full revolution around that record. So that's what we want to do too. So because it's getting taller, you can see my left hand has moved off of my hip, but my arm is still structured and my armpits are kind of squeezing together. So pretend that there's sponges in your armpits that you got to squeeze. So that's allowing me to stay structured, even though I'm not completely stuck on my hips. You can see now I'm leaning over onto my right side and my left arm is structured up against my body, and you can see it's moving up together. So here I'm using just a credit card. You don't always need fancy tools. Credit cards are pretty cool. You can customize them if you want. You can make your own little tool. You can make a pattern on it. So I'm removing extra clay at that bottom each time around. And then I'm going to have the credit card kind of almost folded, not folded, but just curved a little bit so I have more structure. Ideally, my water bucket would be on my right-hand side, but for the video purpose, it was just a little bit better to have it on the other side so you can kind of have a straight shot of what I was doing. But normally if something's that tall, I wouldn't want to lean over it. And you see it wobbling, but my hands are going to stay firm and it's going to get it to go back on center. So slow, slow and steady. And I think I'm talking to somebody in the studio. So I took a moment. And I'm just really getting the throwing lines off of the outside of that tumbler. I like to add images to the surface, whether it's carving or using underglaze, designer liner, or image transfers. If that's the case, I want to make sure that my exterior is smooth and can accept that. I don't want a lot of throwing lines or sludgy marks that I have to remove later. I kind of want to make it smooth as possible now. So I didn't have my wooden knife tool. So it is a metal tool and it's on the plastic bat, but I am not putting pressure on the plastic. Never ever use a wooden tool, a wooden needle tool, and push into the plastic bat. It will create a mark and pretty much just ruin the bat. But I didn't actually go down to the bat. I just cut away the clay. So one more time just to kind of smooth that out. Now I'm going to take my cut wire. I want my cut wire taut and flat to the bat. So you can see it's between my fingers and I'm pulling as tight as possible, kind of like when you floss your teeth. So I do it twice. And I didn't have a towel right next to me, but you always want to dry your hands off as much as possible, clean them off really, really well. And I'm going to pull the piece off the wheel, so I'm going to give it a little tilt and lift it up and over and get it off the bat. It's one easy, quick way to go ahead and make multiple.